Okay, I'm sure it's not going to be there given how little of an impact it made last year outside of topping Buckley's worst list. Obviously, it's not going to carry over to this year, but let's be thorough. Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercise my first amendment rights vlog style. I have no idea when this video is being uploaded. If I haven't managed to bust my ass to get this video all edited with all my nitpicky touch-ups and any copyright fixes taken care of just so I could get this uploaded on December 31st, then it's currently January. Either way, hello and Happy New Year to you all. As I'm writing this, I've had to make a major change to my end-of-the-year production schedule, not just because of Billboard changing when they drop their year-end chart, but also because of a video I have planned for February, which, outside of any further nitpicky touch-ups that may come, I've thankfully finished editing in time for this. Get ready, because we're beginning this video with the Billboard Rant. Last year, Billboard dropped their year-end chart on November 21st. In previous years, it's dropped in early December, but they decided going forward that they were going to shift the chart year of November to November back to October so as to have the release of the year-end chart coincide with the Billboard Music Awards, which I guarantee none of you knew was a thing until then. I know I didn't. This was a welcome change for me because it meant that I could do all my research and scripting for both of the year-end videos before the calendar flips to December and have the bulk of the month to dedicate to editing with the hope that they wouldn't feel as rushed as they felt in 2022. So after I uploaded my American Idiot video, barring the scripting of the February video that I wanted to get done in advance so I could jump into filming after the year-end process is all done and over with, I decided I wasn't going to work on any videos in October or November so I could be ready to jump into year-end mode. Last year's year-end chart had dropped the day after I premiered my metal covers of pop and rap songs video, and I was not wanting to cut that close again. So I was really banking on it dropping in November again. By the time the third week of November rolled around, I was getting really antsy about the year-end chart dropping. I was checking daily, sometimes multiple times a day, to see if it was out. I was wondering what was going on. Did Billboard decide to go back to dropping the year-end chart in December, either due to backlash they might have gotten for the change, or because it's just what they're used to doing? No. Turns out Billboard moved their award show to December 12th, with one article I was shown saying the year-end chart would be dropping the next day. They found a way to have their cake and eat it too. But even before finding this out, I knew I was going to have to make a change to how I do things here so I don't overwork myself like I did in 2022. Really 2023 too, which I'll explain a little bit. As anyone that's been following my content for the last couple of years will tell you, my quality standard for my videos has gone through the roof. Pretty much every video I've made this year has been a 1 to 2 month process in terms of scripting and editing, and this left me feeling nervous about how the year-end process is going to go. How long will editing take? How much editing am I going to do a day to make sure these videos meet their deadline? How nitpicky am I going to be during my watch-throughs? This is why I was really hoping I could start this process in November, but if Billboard are going to change how the chart year goes, then I'm going to change when my videos come out. That's really the best course of action to ensure that A, I'm not overworking myself to get the videos out on New Year's, B, I'm able to do all my other weekly routines like going to the gym, going on my walks, cooking my meals, watching my subscriptions, etc., and not cram a bunch of editing in, especially to the extent where I end up pulling some late hours, and C, I'm able to put more thought into the actual content of the videos. It doesn't just mean I'm taking it easy on myself during the editing process, but it also means more time to dedicate to research, script, revising, and everything else I do for pre-production. I like treating best and worst songs like the final exam of YouTube. Along with What's Wrong With, it's one of my most consistently popular series, and as such, I feel like I have higher expectations to meet for these videos than I do with most other videos I've made. And this is what I feel must be done in order to get an A without resorting to fruitless cramming or doing anything else that could be detrimental to my mental or physical health. If any of you are bothered by this decision, I sincerely apologize. Believe me, I'm not super happy I have to make these changes, but my hope is that the quality of the videos will have you feeling like it was worth it to go this route. A lot of my favorite YouTubers are the ones that don't upload super frequently or have a set uploading schedule, because it says to me as a viewer that they're taking their sweet time to make their videos the best that they can be. It not only shows that they care about the quality of their work, but it also shows respect for us as the audience to come out with something that was well worth the wait. So that's what I'm gonna do. Even outside of all this, 2024 was such a
what the fuck
year. No, I'm not referring to the election when I say that, or at least I'm not just referring to it, but this year has been so wild for both really great and not so great reasons. The year started with me feeling bad that my quest to improve my audio quality and get the right EQ setting didn't really work out for my 2023 year-end videos. It sucked because I was quite proud of my overall analysis in the videos, especially in the best songs video. I think the videos overall are good, but I can hardly go back to those videos because of how tinny I sound. So if that inconvenienced any of you that watched either video, you have my sincerest apologies. And so when it came to my next project, I worked tirelessly to fix that issue. In addition to getting a big shag rug for this room to dampen the acoustics, a mic cover to filter out room noise, mixing headphones, and new mini studio monitors to get a more accurate idea of the EQ, while my old speakers are now being used with the TV since it's got a busted speaker that's noticeable when watching something with a lot of bass, a deverb plugin for recording to finish the job with getting rid of room noise in the audio mix, a cooling pad that functions as both a riser for my laptop as well as a way to dampen the vibrations coming from my computer's built-in speakers, and eventually a Blue Yeti courtesy of my brother. While my Yeti Nano is being used for basically everything else, I finally figured out how to get the EQ I wanted. And after going as far as to re-record the entire video with this new EQ, it all culminated in the most successful video I've made for my channel in years, my What's Wrong With on Motley Crue. It's currently the second most viewed video on this channel, and with the success of that video carrying over to the next What's Wrong With I did on Dream Theater, which may very well be the proudest I've ever been of a video since Just Enjoy Music, I passed 5,000 subscribers and ended up celebrating that feat with the equally lengthy How American Idiot Changed My Life. Needless to say, I feel very confident in saying that 2024 was the best year this channel has ever experienced, and I have you guys to thank for that. But that's just in terms of YouTube. This isn't to say the year didn't have its setbacks. In addition to my job laying off a bunch of people that they weren't able to find work for due to one of their clients terminating their relationship with the company, at least for now, I also had to deal with my personal Facebook account getting disabled due to a hacking, with the appeal that was somehow sent being rejected, which sent me into a pretty massive anxiety attack. Losing over a decade's worth of content and people I haven't yet been able to get added on my backup account, I developed this feeling of violation that I had never experienced before in my life. I know it sounds silly to say about a social media profile, but along with the eventual news that my grandparents had gotten scammed out of $20,000 cash due to someone using an AI that sounded like my brother's voice, telling them he was in jail and needed bail money, I got sent into a pretty paranoid episode about how we've reached a point in this world where shit like this can just happen like that. I would still like to try to think of ways I could get my account back, but I've got enough going on that I can't really put too much focus into it, along with it not being healthy for me to fixate so much on, that I just decided to sweep it under the rug. For now, at least. But it really says a lot when those are the only two really shitty things that happened to me this year. Outside of that, I kinda love this year. Something fell into my lap pretty much immediately after that I'm very excited to share with you guys. A few people know what this something is, but I am not at liberty to make it public yet since it's still in the developmental stage. This year also had my trip to Florida, where I got to meet my buddy Atticus the Death Metaler in person and make the Stupidest Metal List series with him. Oh yeah, there was also the electric car incident, so make that 3 shitty things. I had some pretty excellent concert adventures as well, and broke my yearly record once again. But the loveliest of all was watching my brother, aka the guest of honor in the most unexpected music source video that I wish more people watched, get married, even as it sent me into a momentary feeling of existentialism about getting older that I talked about in the beginning of the American Idiot video. And I still feel like this only scratches the surface of the insanity of this year. That what the fuck feeling absolutely translated to pop music this year, because 2024 was one of those years where I spent the bulk of it feeling worried that I would end up having to cancel the Worst Songs video or changing the criteria for it due to not having enough material for it. There have been a number of years where I've had this worry in the back of my mind because the stuff I had in mind for the Best Songs video shined so much more. It's important to note that when I make these videos, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone that primarily listens to rock and metal and is more or less an outsider to the world of chart analysis. I'm not exactly known for being a pop head, and I'm not someone that goes out of my way to listen to music I don't like. I usually just make note of stuff I want to talk about in the year-end videos as I hear them throughout the year, and check to see if they made the year-end chart when it drops, so I don't need to relegate them to the dishonorable mentions. But the thing is, I wasn't making many notes for the worst list, and the reason for that is because pop music this year was just that good. It was the exact opposite of what I said in the beginning of last year's video about how I felt pop music was declining, which made me feel more ready for the Worst Songs video than I was the Best Songs video. Maybe this is what growing up feels like, because this could also just be a product of not being as negative about the stuff as I was a decade ago. I'm frankly amazed that I was somehow able to round up 10 songs for this video to keep the tradition going for my yearly pop music evaluation. Though I will say, don't expect this video to be on par analysis-wise or even joke-wise with my previous videos in this series, because even though these are songs I really did not like hearing, I can't really say that I have as strong of feelings about them compared to even the mildest of entries from previous videos. Again, all that really says to me is that this year was just that good for pop music if this is what I end up stringing together. And I'm not just saying that to hype you up for the best songs video so that it might outperform this one, even though I don't think it actually will. With that in mind, as per usual, the rules for this video are that the songs need to be on the Billboard year-end chart for this year to qualify for inclusion. I know that another solution for everything I laid out during the Billboard Rant portion of the video could very well have been abandoning that criteria and just talk about whatever I want and not care if it's on the year-end chart, like plenty of other people that make these videos do, but it at least gives me a sense of boundaries. Though I won't deny that this could just be neurodivergence talking and me not wanting to force myself out of the comfort zone. So the deadline goes, criteria stays. If you want to verify that a song is actually on the year-end chart, the link to the chart is in the description. And, you know, this is just my perspective. I'm not going to act like I'm being objective here. I go into these videos expecting some disagreement, such as the subjective nature of music. If you're expecting a particular song to be included here that isn't, chances are it's either because I haven't heard it, I'm indifferent to it, or it's something I've made a point to abstain from talking about. I have no idea how this video is going to turn out, even with the more relaxed approach I'm taking to production, but hopefully it'll at least be enjoyable. Here are my picks for the 10 worst hit songs of 2024. Number 10. I Like the Way You Kiss Me by Artemis, or as I'll call him, Artemis Fowl, is one of those songs I have on here mainly because I don't like the sound of it. It's a song that prides itself a lot on its 80s synth-pop pastiche, but the production doesn't lend itself well to it. The vocals sound really washed out, and the instrumentation sounds uncomfortably grimy. It's trying to go for a really dark sound, but it makes me feel like I'm in a dark alley about to be boxed in, and the lyrics really don't help with that. For as much as the song is trying to convey a relationship where the sex is really great, there seems to be some indication that there's a sense of confusion and disconnect from both parties. Even as Artemis Fowl is clear that the relationship is purely casual, the dynamic between him and his partner, combined with the song's tone, don't sound particularly pleasant. That almost sounds insulting. I can't imagine what it might feel like to hear someone say that to you when you're trying to have a moment of intimacy. But you want to know the line in the song that I find to be the most discomforting? Don't you want to make me proud? 'Cause I'm so proud. Baby, I'm so proud of you. This sounds really manipulative, and I almost want to call it a grooming tactic. I get the impression that the girl in this song is insecure and inexperienced, maybe even a good deal younger than Artemis Fowl. How old is he? Hopefully not too wide of an age gap, I guess. But you get what I mean. This sort of love-bombing, I'm so proud of you language makes the guy sound like a sleazebag, and not in a way that makes him sound endearing. As you can see, this song doesn't give me a lot to work with, so I guess all I have to say is, dude, just cool it a little. I know you're young, but I don't want you getting into too much trouble. Number 9. For some reason, I find myself feeling somewhat nervous whenever I talk about Beyonce in this series. Even people that aren't massive stans of hers can be quite adamant about defending her whenever someone says something about her that they don't like, but I feel pretty confident with this one. This is her big hit to come from her country album Cowboy Carter, Texas Hold'em. I'm just gonna get this out of the way before I start talking about the song itself. I'm not inherently against genre switch albums. I can respect if an artist just wants to try their hand at making different kind of music than they're known for, and they think it sounds like fun. Sometimes if these albums aren't well received, it's not necessarily because the album is bad, rather it's just not something people are wanting to hear from that particular artist, and maybe the album would have been better received if it were made by someone that's known for making that kind of music. I talked about this concept in my Blink-182 video regarding the Matt Skiba albums, and how they would probably be better received if they were released as Alkaline Trio albums. But sometimes when an artist makes a genre switch album and people think it's weird, it's because it's not a sound they think works well with that artist, and that's what I see Texas Hold'em representing. I'm going to compare this to another artist that released a country album this year despite being mainly known for making a much different type of music. Post Malone. When I talked about Chemical in last year's Best Songs video, I said how Post is a rocker at heart. He's someone that's known for taking those rock influences and blending them with a more pop rap sound, and Austin was perhaps the album where he leaned the hardest into his more rock side since the song he made with Ozzy Osbourne, Take What You Want. This year, Post put out a country album in F1 Trillion, where he collaborated with the likes of Hank Williams Jr., Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Jelly Roll, and even Chris Stapleton. Although it's not an album I love, in fact it's my least favorite of his albums, mainly because I don't think he's doing enough genre blending, it at least feels like a logical direction for someone like Post to go in, since, much like I talked about with Jelly Roll last year, there are still traces of that rocker side of him. That's why I think Going Country worked for Post Malone. However, none of what I said sounds like it's applicable to an artist like Beyonce. I get that she's from Texas, and she did actually make a country song before on her album
Lemonade
called Daddy Lessons. But when I listen to Texas Hold'em, I'm reminded of 4 or 5 Seconds from More Songs of 2015, and how off-putting I found the sound of Rihanna and Kanye's vocals on top of a solo acoustic guitar, played by Paul McCartney no less. The instrumentation sounds pretty basic, and I guess I could see country fans enjoying it, but Beyonce's voice is just so weird to hear on a song like this.
This ain't Texas, ain't no hold'em, so lay your cards down, 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 down.
When you think of country vocals, you think of a voice that has something of a southern tinge and sounds like the person's had at least a little to drink. But Beyonce just sounds like her usual domineering self, just with some banjo and acoustic guitar playing in the back.
Don't be a bitch, come take it to the floor now. Woo!
Hell, this idea really manifests itself on the cover she did of Jolene by Dolly Parton on this album, where instead of begging and pleading for this woman to please not take her man away, she pretty much threatens her to not step on her turf because this is Beyonce and she needs to always be dominant.
I'm warning you, don't come for my man.
I don't make the rules, she does. I might not have a reputation of being the biggest country fan out there, but I like to think I have at least some understanding of how it sounds. You don't associate this kind of artist with someone that sings about whiskey, dive bars, or tornadoes, even while knowing that Beyonce is from Houston. Texas Hold'em has this aura of being the how do you do fellow kids of country music. It gives some real culture vulture vibes with how surface level understanding it sounds like Beyonce has of this kind of music. Like she picked out a handful of references and sang about them on the most generic country instrumental they could put together. It's not the worst sounding song, and it's by no means the worst song of Beyonce's I've ever heard. I mean, you'd have to do much worse than this to top Drunken Love and 7-Eleven. But Texas Hold'em represents a strange sense of malaise that I can't not talk about it in this video. Also, what does it say when I can take this song more seriously when it's being sung by Brock Baker doing impressions of King of the Hill characters?
This ain't Texas. Yep. Ain't no hold'em. So lay your cards down, 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 down. Ooh.
So park your Lexus, and throw your keys up. Stick around, round, 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 round. Stick around.
Again, it's all in the voice.
I can't take the pressure.
Number 8.
I'm going insane. Now go away.
I first heard of Jack Harlow through his feature on Industry Baby by Lil Nas X, and figured he was some no-name guy that people would forget about after the song leaves the charts. And I'm not talking shit on Industry Baby, I really like that song, even though it missed out on my best list of both 2021 and 2022. I wasn't expecting him to be someone that actually had a hit to his name with no help from anyone more popular, mainly because who would want to bump rap music made by a guy with a name as white as Jack Harlow? But that's what he managed to get in 2022 with First Class. For as much as that was one of those songs that had a really obvious sample, in this case it was Glamorous by Fergie, I didn't really have much of an opinion on it to want to talk about it 2 years ago. However, Lovin' On Me, whose title sounds too much like a song by Roxy Blue, is a song that does a lot more to exemplify how mediocre of an artist Jack Harlow is. The vibe I've always gotten from Harlow is that he's like Weird Al in the White and Nerdy video, in the sense that he wants to act all cool and worthy of rolling with the gangstas, but doesn't have the self-awareness to realize how much of a poser he comes off as. Right down to his flow and his lyrical mannerisms, he really doesn't hide how, for lack of a better term, white he is. And in the world of rap, that's not exactly how you want to be presenting yourself if you want to be taken seriously, let alone as a white rapper. You look at guys like Aesop Rock, Diabolic, Vinnie Paz, LP, R.A. the Rugged Man, NF, Action Bronson, and of course Eminem, among others. They have personality and good production on their albums, which is what helped them to attain the credibility in the rap game that they have. Jack Harlow, though, sounds like a total dweeb. For fuck's sake, he straight up calls himself Vanilla.
I'm vanilla, baby.
Even if you're trying to make some tongue-in-cheek Vanilla Ice reference, that doesn't sound cool. And that's leaving aside the corny Rico Suave reference he does make.
Rico like Suave.
He may have intended it to refer to his skin color, which no shame in being proud of that as long as you aren't using it as a means of being a jerk to people. But in a context like this, I tend to use the term vanilla to mean boring or uninspired. It may be an accurate descriptor here, but it doesn't make Harlow sound any less unimpressive. Not helping is the fact that he thinks spelling words is still cool.
Young J-A-C-K, young M-I-S-S-I-O-N-A-R-Y.
Because, you know, it was totally cool the last time a rapper did that.
F-R-E-E
And as if the rest of the lyrics didn't sound generic and corny enough, there's also this part.
I keep it short with a bitch, Lord Farquaad.
Of all the Shrek references you could make, why that? That doesn't make you sound cool either, and I'm not even saying that because I love Shrek. Farquaad is portrayed in the movie as a short-fused, get it, arrogant loser. I don't think he's someone you want to be comparing yourself to. This is on the same level of tryhard as Lil Pump saying McLovin, and I love it. You guys remember that was a thing, right?
Your boyfriend is a dork, McLovin.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that, like First Class, Lovin' On Me contains a prominent sample of the song Whatever by an R&B artist by the name of Cadillac Dale.
Whip your lovin' on me. That's right.
Whip your lovin' on me, baby.
It might not be as obvious of a sample as Glamorous was in First Class, let alone as recognizable of a song to be sampling, but it's definitely Harlow trying to replicate what it was that made First Class able to click with people. I might not care much for that song, but it's at least smooth sounding to the average listener. Lovin' On Me, though, doesn't really sound like it succeeds at doing that. And according to Genius, the song also apparently interpolates the motto by Drake.
Don't know what you heard or what you thought about your boy, but they lied about your boy going dumb and it's some idiot.
You only live once, that's the motto, nigga. YOLO, and we bout it every day, every day, every day.
I guess the beat and flow are similar enough, but aside from my understanding about the derivative nature of media, I don't see much of a connection beyond that. But even if there was, I'm sure you guys know what I think of that song, and that it's not a good song to want to replicate. But I think that also says a lot about how inconsequential of an artist Jack Harlow comes across. He may have some mainstream cred right now, but I don't see him having a lot of staying power down the road, and songs like Lovin' On Me don't help his case.
Can't take the pressure.
Number 7.
I'm going insane now, go away.
Morgan, can you please just stop using trap beats in your songs? I don't know who keeps telling you they sound good, cause they don't. If this didn't make use of those trap beats, the worst I'd probably have to say about Cowgirls is that it sounds corny as shit. I can't even give this any props for being in F minor, or even that triad lick that you hear in the intro and post-chorus. Because much like the song of Morgan's that I talked about last year, Thinkin' About Me, the guitar just doesn't sound good against this kind of percussion, and the processing on his voice makes him sound like Florida Georgia Line, and that's not a good thing. But on the note of that Florida Georgia Line comparison, Cowgirls has this attitude that sounds like it belongs in the bro country era. The innuendo and the lyrics don't sound clever, particularly with these lines.
Where the sun don't rise, rodeo 419, looking like a Mustang. I hate that I love the way them kisses taste like whiskey.
It's like these are things that these country artists think that they need to reference. Like, it feels like whiskey is the only drink they know. And I can't imagine it's that great of a taste when it comes from someone else's mouth. That sounds nasty. The song's also just kind of uncomfortable sounding. When listening to a lot of these lines from Morgan and the featured artist Ernest, who decided to not go to the beach that day, it sounds like a dad that's trying way too hard to be funny. Like he's talking about girls in a way that he thinks sounds cool, but you're just embarrassed to be listening to what he's saying.
Pouring your heart with some good aim on a goodbye ride, but it's fine 'cause it's kinda my thing.
Though to be fair to Morgan, he isn't listed as a writer on the song, while Ernest is. But it really makes you wonder what was going through his mind when he gave Ernest the okay on this writing. Cowgirls might not be as grating and annoying as Thinkin' About Me, but it's still such a douchey sound. Morgan Wallen might enjoy dabbling in hip-hop, but like with Texas Hold'em for Beyonce, I just don't see this as a sound that works well for him. The lyrics here are definitely cornier and more try-hard than they are in Thinkin' About Me. Morgan sounded like an ass on that song, whereas here he's going out of his way to make you cringe. Overall, it's really not a good look at all, even if he didn't write this song.
Can't take the pressure.
Number 6.
I'm going insane now, go away.
If the last segment was an indication enough, I've been pretty open about not really liking country rap crossovers. The kind of stuff Morgan Wallen was doing on Thinkin' About Me and Cowgirls does not sound like it works with trap beats, and that's what made the former easily the worst song of his that I heard. But then there's something like this that sounds like an even worse case scenario of how bad a song can sound when you take a country artist out of their element, and that's how you get a song like Miles on It by Marshmello and Kane Brown. Both of these guys were always just kinda there when I first heard of them in the late 2010s. Kane Brown to me was just another indistinguishable country artist, and Marshmello from my perspective was nothing more than a guy that dances around in a mask that makes him look like a living emoji on a Nick Jr. show and piggybacks off of the appeal of whichever artist he's collaborating with. Like, the dude's even made a song with A Day to Remember.
When I found you, I found me.
I remember when Friends and Happier were hits back in 2018 and finding them kinda bland. I wasn't really expecting Marshmello to stick around much after that, even as a meme, but somehow he found his way back with the help of Mr. Brown here. Listening to Miles on it, I feel like it makes Thinking About Me and Cowgirls sound a lot more pleasant because it at least isn't assaulting me with so much happening, which is more or less the main thing Marshmello's music has a reputation of. I hear a bit of twangy guitar in the mix, but it's drowned out by this club-sounding beat. And going along with that, it's a song about a truck, which is of course the main thing that's there to remind you that yes, this is indeed supposed to be a country crossover. Get it? Because trucks. It's so far removed that it gives Old Town Road more credibility as a country song. That at least had enough instrumental decoration and a Billy Ray Cyrus feature that you can make an argument that it functions as a country song, even though I maintain that it is still a rap song at its core. This doesn't even have anything like that going for it. Kane Brown isn't even putting on a southern accent to give the song at least an iota of personality.
Truck bed wide like a California king. We could break it in if you know what I mean.
Though I suppose that helps the song to not sound as lopsided and incohesive as Broadway Girls. Another thing that annoys me about this song is how much it sounds like it belongs in 2013. Cowgirls might have that bro country attitude, but this has that overproduced sound. Back then, bro country was this inescapable force that did a number in souring country's reputation amongst casual listeners. Around that time, country was becoming really cliched to the point where you could be that guy that makes a bingo card of all the genre's cliches. It was also popular for a lot of those artists to come out with these pop and rap crossover hits that sounded really played out. Something about the production on Miles on It sounds like it would fit in with 2013's pop scene, and the really uncreative lyrics don't help at all with helping the song to not sound at all stereotypical. I wouldn't say I hate this as much as songs like Red Solo Cup by Toby Keith or Cruise by Florida Georgia Line, which I really need to stress how much I hate myself for not talking about in 2013. But it's still really eye-rolling and puts this taste in my mouth that makes me think that I'm drinking pool water that was marketed as natural spring water. On that note, here's your reminder to drink some actual water like I'm gonna do right now.
Can't take the pressure.
Number 5.
I'm going insane. Now go away.
Obviously, there has to be a segment in this video on Drake. This was the year where making fun of Drake was one of society's biggest pastimes. Unfortunately, none of his silly little disses to Kendrick made the year-end chart. Don't worry, we will be talking about that in the Best Songs video, so we're gonna have to go with something else. Of the songs of his on the year-end chart, the one that is the most deserving of a spot on here is IDGAF, not to be confused with the song by Tupac that spells the acronym out. And it's funny I mentioned Tupac considering Drake's made a bunch of dumb songs, many of which I've covered in this series, but if his neener tone on the song of his I talked about last year, Rich Flex, wasn't grating enough, IDGAF really shows him going all in on the immaturity. Even when he isn't being direct like he had to be in his disses, he tries to present himself like a tough guy, which isn't exactly something you do when you don't give a fuck. And it just comes out sounding limp-wristed to the point of whininess.
I hate you boy more than I ever did. You rapping my shit that you never did.
Oh, like you're Mr. Badass when you've spent so much of your career being known for being a softie. You couldn't even step to Anthony Fantano, and he's a self-described nerd. I get that I shouldn't go into a Drake song expecting much, but if he's gonna be the most omnipresent rapper out right now, shouldn't there at least be something to show for it? Instead, we get lines like this.
October Zone is a label. I stay with that old like a tie. I stay with that old like a bagel. I stay with that old like a lightsaber.
Yes, these things are circular. Fantastic observation. Learning about shapes is fun. Drake's only real saving grace in this song is the fact that the featured artist Yeet, or as I like to call him, Yeet, is basically the scapegoat for its problems. This isn't just another instance of the main artist not having much of a presence on the song, this dude is all over the place. It's worth mentioning that there was initial speculation that this song would be on Yeet's album, and I feel like that's the reason why he dominates the song so much. But let's not act like that saves the song at all. The chorus quite literally has him basically saying this.
Whatever, I do what I want.
Drake was already immature sounding enough, you aren't helping, especially with the counting money for fun line. Do people still find that cliche endearing in rap? And then there's all the voices he puts on throughout his verse that are really overwhelming, from the mumbly first quarter to the really rushed sounding second quarter where he sounds like the squeaky voiced teen.
Fill out Schedule B. You should receive your burgers in 6 to 8 weeks.
Side note, swag is apparently still a thing people say. Didn't realize we were still in 2012. To the forced sounding autotune after that. The only thing I like about Yeet is that it makes for a really dumb pun about what I would like to happen to Drake's career. And given the kind of year he's had, maybe that possibility ain't out of the question.
Can't take the pressure.
Number 4.
I'm going insane. Now go away.
Ugh, sexy red. Yep, I knew going into this that her being on this list was inevitable. And with this being the only song of hers on the year-end chart aside from her featuring on Rich Baby Daddy by Drake, it certainly gives an impression. I've complained a lot about female rappers in this series, from Nicki Minaj to Iggy Azalea to Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion to more recent names like Glorilla and Lotto, and I always get this feeling with every new name that pops up that they just get trashier and more abrasive to the point where it makes the older names seem more preferable. Like, I've been pretty open about not liking Megan, but hearing someone like Sexy Red honestly makes me wish I was listening to her. She's just that unpleasant. I'm sorry, Fantano, I have a lot of respect for you, even if I might not agree with a lot of takes you've given, but I have no idea what you see in her, and judging by the reaction that was given to his very positive coverage, I am definitely not alone in thinking that. Get It Sexy is essentially everything WAP was stereotyped as being, this really raucous, overly shamelessly sexual to the point of discomfort song. But that's okay, because that's the effect it's supposed to have, Ben Shapiro, you doofus. As cringe as I found WAP to be back in 2020, I at least was able to acknowledge that it had some chuckle-worthy lines. It's basically a meme song at this point. Get It Sexy is not that. I'm not cracking a smile or giving a tiny smirk when I listen to the song. Sexy Red isn't making any clever references or utilizing some interesting wordplay. It just sounds like straight trash. But it's not even the kind of trash that's interesting to analyze. Rather, it's the kind of shit that you know is bound to appear on a list like this. Like, yeah, that's cringe. What else do you want me to say? I guess I could show you this really funny Genius annotation I found when I was researching this. Her voice is also really annoying, and that southern accent doesn't do her much favors in helping her to not sound like trailer trash. There's one moment where it sounds like she's jacking Do-Wah Diddy by Manfred Mann.
Little me sexy walking down the street. There she was, just walking down the street singing.
And there's a moment where she's making what are supposed to be moaning sounds, but it sounds like Yoshi jumping.
That's you!
I don't know what else to say, this is one of the most garbage rap songs I've covered here, but by some miracle it's not even the worst one on this list. I think there's enough justifying this being higher on here than everything we've seen thus far, but not enough that I think it deserves to be any higher than this. So imagine how asinine the next ones have to be with that in mind.
Can't take the pressure.
Number 3.
I'm going insane. Now go away.
This song is basically the musical equivalent of the South Park episode where everyone says shit over and over. What do I mean by that? Just about every line in the song ends with the word shit. In fact, I'm actually going to play the few lines that don't end with the word just to give you a bit of an idea of how much shit type shit has to offer.
A silent helper, I just keep it cool with you bitches. Put the double O in the room. Serotonin, that's a cool type mix. Oxycontin mixing with the blues. Used to land up feeling like a zoo type mix. Shawty, stripping, taking shrooms. Flooding up the spot, it's like a pool type mix. Shot that she was, I'm like, I will forever have a boss, bitch. 31 thought for the teeth, I still ain't smiling for this bitch.
That's 10 lines total right there. The song is a little under 4 minutes, so everything I did not just play there is essentially the shit parts. And I don't just mean that metaphorically. But I'm sure you're dying to know. You know how many times the word shit is used in the song? 55 times. And that's not including the instances where the backing vocal says it, or the times where the line ends with the word type and it's implied what the next word is supposed to be. You want to know why that South Park episode is among the ones that hold up the strongest? Because it's saying that as fun as it can be to use curse words, you don't want to overuse them to the point of meaninglessness. And that's what Future, Travis Scott, and Playboy Cardi, or as I like calling him, Playboy Cardi B, are doing. There's no underlying point there, it's just a dumb pun, please don't overthink it. I used to know some people that would constantly refer to every other person they talked about as a piece of shit in the span of a singular conversation, and it got to the point where it didn't even sound like they were saying words anymore. That's what type shit's format makes me think of. Like, who do you think you are, Jim Leahy? Yes, I got into Trailer Park Boys this year. I've always found it uncreative when rappers rhyme words with themselves. It'd be one thing if it were a small motif or if it only happened once or twice, but the whole song is more or less built around it, so it stops being remotely clever about 10 seconds in. You'll notice that most of the lines I played that ended with a word other than shit came from Travis Scott's verse. I almost want to give him kudos for that, but his verse is the most boring in the song because the beat cuts out for it, so it's not like it amounted to much. But enough about the shit. What else do we got here? Again, Travis Scott's verse is the most substantial sounding one considering it has 5 lines that don't end with shit. Playboy Cardi B definitely has the best sounding flow in the song, even if it does sound mostly mumbly.
She gripping all of my bounce, I gotta move type shit. Thomas they cover my flaws, I had to brand new type shit.
But it doesn't sound as boring sounding as the verse from Not like I really expected much better from the guy, since he sounded warbly and mumbly on each of the other songs I've covered that he was a part of. But I think this might be the worst one. The monotone delivery combined with the over-reliance on shit puts this image in my mind of Future just shitting out some incoherent little bars and calling it quits.
Pockets red up, all blue type shit. Bunch of rich niggas, hoes get confused type shit.
Again, very uncreative song. The beat is also quite nauseating. I don't get what the need is for all the bells, since they don't mix well with the rest of the instrumental. They're the kind of bells you'd sooner hear during an establishing shot of a wedding scene, and they don't sound like they belong on this song. Hey, that rhymes. The only other impression I get of what the song is about is just rappers being vapid and braggadocious, so what is the connection supposed to be? If anything, it also kind of speaks a lot to how thoughtless and haphazard type shit is as a whole. The lyrics are lazy, the rapping is monotonous, and the beat is unfitting. I really don't like how there isn't a better word I can use to sum things up to close this segment out other than, well, shit. See, now you got me being uncreative. Number 2. I always get really annoyed whenever Nicki Minaj pops her head in. Maybe an argument could be made that this song shouldn't be as high on this list because Nicki just isn't that shocking anymore, but I knew the moment I heard FTCU, which stands for Fuck this club up, fuck this club up, after the really annoying Waka Flocka Flame sample being used, that it was no doubt an easy contender. Something I always seem to forget is that she's been in the game since 2004, with her debut, Pink Friday, coming out in 2010. She's 42 years old and saying shit like,
high heels on my tippies. Dough, say ain't Gabbana, that's on my titties. Cop me vitamins when I write the dicky. I still got the juice, bitch, buy a sippy.
Drake me!
No!
She's made a bunch of cringy songs over the years, many of which I've covered in this series, but if the last couple songs of hers I covered weren't indication enough, as time goes on, the correlation between her age and how embarrassing the songs are really starts to go on an upward slope. This is just more of Nicki flexing, trying to act tough, making corny sexual references, and acting petty towards the people she sees as being her competition, the Cardi B's, Megan Thee Stallions, etc.
I give bitches the crown, they fuck around and lose it, nah. I am no wave, I only wave when I'm telling them bye. Bitch, we ain't twinning, ain't fraternal or identical.
Coming from somebody that used to have a recurring gag of referring to other female rappers that came out in the past decade as Nicki Minaj clones, this is immature. Shit like this might be Nicki's shtick, as it were, but it's nonetheless pathetic seeing her engage in this kind of behavior, especially this late in her career. And this especially becomes the case with this line.
Stay in your Tory lane, bitch, I'm not Iggy.
Just with the mention of the word Tory, I could tell this was a jab at Megan Thee Stallion. If you don't know, Tory Lanez is a rapper/singer who was somewhat dating Megan in 2020, no one's really sure about that. But they were at a party together where things eventually got violent. It was later revealed by Megan that he shot her in both of her feet, and in 2023 he got sentenced to 10 years of jail time. This is also of course the reasoning behind Nicki titling her diss track towards Megan that she released at the start of the year, Bigfoot, which is indeed quite charming. Look, I'm not a fan of Megan either, and I didn't really care much for her Nicki diss hiss. Hey, that rhymes. But that's a low blow. I get that disses more or less call for that, but still, she got shot by the guy. And the allusion to Iggy Bunny Pajamas Azalea there is also quite confusing, not just because I have no idea if she's even still relevant anymore, but because the connection to Tory Lanez is unclear. From what I could find, Iggy actually wrote a letter defending him, which of course was met with backlash. So I guess that's what Nicki was getting at with the stay in your lane thing. Whatever the case, I still find it to be a really lame and backhanded jab. Super Freaky Girl and Barbie World were both annoying and cringe, but FTCU embodies a lot more of what's made Nicki so unbearable in the 2020s. It's one thing to make a bunch of eye-rolling sexual references in a song, but it's another to make a bunch of eye-rolling sexual references and also be petty and bitchy towards people in a song, whether directly or not. Whenever I hear stuff like this from people like her, Megan, Cardi, and whoever else, I'm always sitting here going, girls, you're all awful. But I think Nicki is the pettiest, considering she's in her 40s and picking fights with people at least a decade younger than her because she sees them as rivals rather than allies. It's not a healthy path to see someone go down, and that's what makes Nicki Minaj more and more sad to talk about. The dishonorable mentions are going to be pretty lengthy because I had the stupidest sense of optimism that these songs might be on the year-end chart, but I'm not really surprised that they aren't. Normally I reserve this segment for songs I have a feeling might carry over to next year, but I'm confident in saying that won't be the case for any of these songs. Hopefully I don't end up making the same mistake that I did with I'm Good in 2022 by assuming too soon what these songs' performance next year will be like, But I have 3 songs I want to go over here, with the first one being Think You the Shit Fart by Ice Spice. Yep, as if we didn't already get enough shit from type shit, now we have references to farts in addition to shit. You think I enjoy talking about this stuff? I'm not gonna act like I'm above toilet humor, I can still laugh at it if the joke is funny enough, but to hear it in music is really juvenile. At least with type shit, the shit wasn't intended to be literal, but here, well...
Think you the shit, bitch? You not even the fart.
Ice Spice thinks that's so clever, taking the normally positive figurative usage of the shit and turning it into a poop joke. Isn't poop so funny, you guys? Poop! And farts also come out of your ass and are produced by your digestive system. Isn't that fucking hysterical? Lady, the final episode of Hey Arnold is more clever with its use of fart jokes, and I don't even like that episode. But you know what gets me the most about this song? It's a diss track. It's being made towards Lotto, you know, the big dick energy chick. 2024 was basically the year of the diss track, and this one makes Drake's disses to Kendrick sound competent and effective. A song with a title like Think You the Shit Fart sounds like it's something you'd expect from a parody artist, but Ice Spice sounds like she's playing it serious. I can't imagine how she must have felt saying fart in the studio, and how it must have felt for her producers to hear her say it. Like, could anyone keep a straight face there? This is embarrassing, and I don't even care what Lotto did in response to this. I don't like her, she didn't make a good impression on me back in 2022, but no matter the context of the beef here, she pretty much won by default. You'd think someone with the last name Gaston would be capable of at least something with a little more teeth. Next is Woman's World by Katy Perry. It has been so amusing observing how irrelevant Katy Perry has become over the last 5 or 6 years. I know it sounds contradictory to call someone irrelevant when you're acknowledging them, but there's really no other word that's more fitting of a descriptor here. I knew the moment I heard that monotonous song following up Chained to the Rhythm that she was falling off in more ways than one. I wasn't hearing much coverage of the song, and it didn't make the year-end chart in 2019, and to top things off, this is what it sounds like. It's just one note. How is this good? But I didn't hear shit about Katy Perry after that, other than when that Christian rapper sued her over Dark Horse having a similar pattern of notes as one of his songs. But as far as the music goes, I figured her era of dominance in the pop world was pretty much done. Back when I was in high school, she was everywhere. I Kissed a Girl, Hot and Cold, California Girls, Teenage Dream, Firework, E.T., and even Last Friday Night were getting constant plays. At the time, Katy was also trying to break Michael Jackson's record of most #1 hits to come from an album. In his case, it was Bad, which led to mediocre songs like The One That Got Away, Part of Me, and Wide Awake being released as singles. And I fucking hated it. Of course, back then, I was in my angry anti-pop pseudo-intellectual phase that consequentially led me to discovering Muse Productions, but even now when I've developed more of a taste for pop, I still look back at these songs as being dumb. And these feelings towards her music continued throughout my college years when Roar and Dark Horse were hits, both of which I covered in War Songs of 2014. Then came the aforementioned Chained to the Rhythm, which I of course covered in War Songs of 2017, where she was trying to be all fake deep and make some big statement about society because, I mean, it was 2017. Todd in the Shadows made a really interesting Train Records episode on the album that comes from, Witness, that I'll have linked below. But the point is, there came this stark contrast between the Katy Perry that dominated the airwaves in the early 2010s and what I guess we can call latter-day Katy Perry. So this year she staged a big comeback with her album 143, which is a pretty lame name, with its debut single being Woman's World. And... yeah, so that's pretty much why this isn't on the year-end chart, and nobody should be surprised about that. Pitiful chart performance aside, my reaction to the song was that Katy was basically trying to make another Chained to the Rhythm, in the sense that it's a pop banger that has this really profound and empowering message about the nature of society, but it ends up coming off like a Meghan Trainor song that sounds like it belongs in the mid-2010s, with how much it tries and fails to be a feminist empowerment anthem. I might not be as polarized towards feminism as I might have been back then, but songs like Woman's World that go the route of empowering women by condescending to men do not represent the movement in the ways that you want them to. And they do a terrible job at convincing outsiders that the movement isn't as toxic as people critical of it would have you believe. That's how tone-deaf and posturing the song is. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the tragic irony of a song that's supposed to be a feminist anthem having majority men involved with the writing and production, and one of them being Dr. Luke. No matter how skeptical I might still be regarding the allegations of sexual misconduct levied by Kesha, check out my old Sony Supports Rape video if you want to know more. There's no getting around the fact that this guy does not have a great reputation in the industry right now, and it's not a great look to be working with him with that knowledge in mind, especially when you're trying to present yourself as an advocate for women and feminism. Fuck, I'm not even a feminist, and even I have a better understanding of how this works. And not to mention, there's also Katie's hilarious response to the backlash Woman's World received.
And we're kind of just having fun, being a bit sarcastic with it. It's very slapstick, and very on the nose. And with this set, it's like, ooh, we're not about the male gaze, but we really are about the male gaze.
Gotta love when a person deflects in the wake of criticism by claiming they weren't being serious or they were trolling, because that's definitely worked out before. Never mind how a competent troll never admits to being a troll. Bottom line, we're not in 2017 anymore, and I have no interest in acting like we are. The year was dog shit anyway. Woman's World is a poor excuse for an empowerment anthem, and if Katy Perry wasn't already irrelevant in the years following her last taste of success, she definitely is now, and the damn near universal panning of Woman's World all but cements that fact. Good riddance. And the final dishonorable mention I have for this video is I Love It by Camila Cabello, featuring Playboy Cardi B. Why is this here? I liked the part when she said, I love it. Like I said about BB Rexa last year, Camila Cabello has always been one of those artists where my only thought on them is, she exists. The songs of hers I'm familiar with have a reputation of being somewhat of dead space-filling music, but I Love It, not to be confused with that silly song by Kanye and Lil Pump, this one spells it like L-U-V, sticks out for all the wrong reasons. I don't have too much to say about it. Obviously, as I showcased just now, it's repetitive in a way that makes type shit look like a stroke of lyrical brilliance. But then if that wasn't irritating enough, there's Playboy Cardi B's part here. That may be the mumbliest mumble that ever mumbled. What's he saying here? Okay, that makes sense. All I'll say about that is Green Day, you are not. And of course, there's the obligatory mention of the fact that a bunch of Christmas songs were once again able to qualify for inclusion. All 5 of the ones on last year's year-end chart are here again. All I Want for Christmas Is You is at number 54. Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree is at number 59. Jingle Bell Rock is at number 68. Last Christmas is at number 74, and Holly Jolly Christmas is at number 94. This is really dumb, but at least we still haven't gotten to the point where Wonderful Christmas Time makes it on, because that would sure be aggravating. But I nonetheless think that Billboard needs to find some way to draw the line so that we don't see this happen every year, since shifting the chart year back didn't really change anything in this regard. Because obviously everyone loves streaming these songs this time of year, and radio stations love playing them every holiday season, and those numbers will continue to render them eligible for inclusion on this thing. Make it stop. I imagine this is what people that don't like me or haven't watched a single video I've made that wasn't from 2013 legitimately think I sound like in literally all my videos.
You must learn. I can't take the pressure.
Number 1.
I'm going insane. Now go away.
So I'm scrolling through the year-end chart looking to see if there's anything I might want to talk about, since so much of what I wanted to talk about had to be relegated to the dishonorable mentions, and I see this. I'm like, huh? Yen $? Oh, right. Kanye made that album with Ty Dolla $ign that Fantano, among others, called unreviewable. And apparently a song from that album made the year-end chart. I completely forgot about this, since I guess I just got used to not seeing Kanye on the year-end chart, and I guess I was effectively able to block him from my subconscious ever since, you know, that incident where he managed to make Alex goddamn Jones uncomfortable. I promise I'm not going to spend a lot of time harping on that since that's not what the focus of this segment, or the song for that matter, is. But I gotta say, speaking as someone that's loathed Kanye for as long as I have, I'd be lying if I were to say that it didn't at least feel a little gratifying to be able to feel like I won't be upsetting very many people at all by talking about Carnival here. Then again, Fantano did get a lot of blowback for giving that album a non-review, so I don't even fucking know anymore, and frankly, I don't really care either. This song sounds like ass. The beat sounds overproduced as hell, to the extent that it sounds like there's two different beats going on, which gives this really overwhelming vibe. You remember earlier this year when Ozzy announced that he said no to Kanye sampling from him on a song he was making? This was apparently the song he was wanting to use the sample for, and his way around this was to sample his own song that samples Iron Man. Dude straight up did a sampleception like I talked about Big Sean doing with Ass and War Songs of 2012, and it sounds like shit. Like, I love Black Sabbath as much as the next guy, and I have the Thomas Crapper picture in my bathroom to prove it. But you gotta admit, this is a bit much. It has this aura of wanting to build everybody on the track up when all they're doing is making a bunch of obnoxious sex references.
Go, 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 go. Hair so good, she honorable. She ride a dick like a carnival. I done did the impossible. Go, go, Power Ranger.
I almost want to laugh at how embarrassed I am for Ty Dolla $ign, Rich the Kid, and Playboi Carti B on this song. I'm not embarrassed for Kanye. He's just as annoying as he always was. I don't really have much to say about most of the verses, other than they sound generic and like they could have been made by just about any other current rapper. Rich the Kid makes a reference to Columbine that gives off some uncomfortable vibes.
Pull up in the trees like Caliban.
And Playboi Carti B not only sounds annoyingly mumbly, but the beat is overpowering his voice.
She wanna taste the chicken and sweat today, ho, come back tomorrow. If you know what I know, how's your hoe? Just out the fence, don't have no high toes.
But Kanye, of course, steals the show here. There's so many ridiculous lines in his verse, I have no idea how I'm supposed to narrow it down. From the mention of Elon Musk sending him on a rocket ship to go home, which wouldn't surprise me if this was supposed to be a callback to his verse on E.T. by Katy Perry.
Elon, where my rocket ship? It's time to go home. I know a bar out in Mars.
To mentioning Taylor Swift again, since we're apparently still on that shit.
I mean, sis Taylor Swift, since I had the rolling on the wrist.
Come on, even after Taylor made a hypocritical ass of herself on Look What You Made Me Do, after seemingly burying the hatchet in the wake of the release of Famous and making you look like the victim, you find some way to continue clinging to that beef. Classy. But all that pales in comparison to these lines.
Now I'm Ye Kelly, bitch. Now I'm Bill Cosby, bitch. Now I'm Puff Daddy Rich. That's me, to me, rich. This for what they did to Chris. They can't do shit with this.
All right, buddy. Shit just went from 0 to 100 real fucking quick.
Imagine saying that you love Nazis and you love Hitler, which gets you rightfully put on the cancel chopping block to the degree that even your own fans question how much they want to engage with albums like College Dropout, 808s and Heartbreaks, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, etc., and give you any sort of credit for the genius you displayed in the past, and comparing yourself to not one, not two, but 4 well-known figures infamous for hurting and or traumatizing women. Even in the context of bragging about your sexual escapades like the others are doing, why would you want to take your verse in that direction?
You sound like an asshole!
I don't know whether to find this pathetic or hysterical. There's separating the art from the artist, which of course I'm all for, and then there's showing sympathy for the things putting them on the cancel chopping block in the first place, especially when you think you have something in common with them. It makes me think way too much of that whole story about Gina Carano comparing herself to Jews in the Holocaust because of people not liking her politics, or on BoJack Horseman when he was given the cancel treatment and the only support he had was from Vance Wagner, who is essentially the ultimate representation of the kinds of people that get put on the cancel chopping block. I get that it feels shitty to be given the cancel treatment, justified or not, but you don't want to sink to this level. Like I said, I was not expecting to see him on the year-end chart. Kanye for his last few albums has been one of those artists where his albums are really hyped, but they don't produce a major crossover hit, so we don't see his name on the year-end chart outside of a small few features here and there. It's not outside the realm of possibility, obviously, and I'm also not one to believe that someone as controversial as Kanye would be blacklisted from this sort of accolade, as it were, but that's just not the way things were going, and it didn't look like anyone was complaining about it, so life went on. Obviously, I knew I was going to hate Carnival, but I wasn't expecting to be blown away to the extent that I put it at number 1 in this video. I was expecting to have FDCU top the list, but as embarrassing as that song was, the more I thought about it, the more it became clear that Carnival had worse things to say. It's one thing for Kanye to make a song that sounds bad or annoying, but even as unsurprised as I was, hearing him say the kinds of things he did in the song was pretty baffling to say the least. Hopefully nothing like this happens again, and we can just let Kanye grow irrelevant as he gets closer and closer to the bottom of his downward spiral. And while that's going on, we can put our focus into doing what 2024 has been pretty great at doing, and make pop music great again. Thank you for being patient with this video's production and giving me your time today. Going forward, if this is how Billboard's year-end procedure is going to go, then I may just have this be the way I go about this for the foreseeable future. Even despite that uprooting, I'm glad I was able to make this video, considering 2024 was one of those years where the good far outweighed the bad. And I hope you're excited to see what I mean by that, because the top 10 best songs of 2024 is coming up next. I have no idea how soon it will be before it's up, but you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you for watching this video, take care, and have a nice day. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time. Hey, buddy.
Yeah?
I'm thinking of a year that'll hopefully be cooler than 24.
Let me hear it.
25.
Things are never gonna be quite what you want.